Hi everyone, this is Serene from Advocate Me, People for Safe Vaccines, and in collaboration with our new projects, Australians Say No to Mandatory Vaccination and Human Rights Advocates. This is an update in relation to the methodology that employees should engage in handling this extremely coercive and abusive move by the Victorian government to mandate the vaccinations in such a rapid timeline, creating very serious issues in relation to breaches of fair work legislation, procedural fairness, natural justice, occupational health and safety legislation, anti-discrimination legislation, privacy legislations, and so on and so forth. Last week, we had put an extensive letter as to both provide a comprehensive outline as to the laws that the employers will be breaching by attempting to force these incomprehensible mandates that are coming from the Victorian government in many spaces. We all also have heard that the judges are going to have the right of choice. The coroner's office is going to have the right of choice, but everyone else will not have that right of choice. If this is not unlawful in itself, I don't know what is. So what I wanted to do tonight is bring to your attention our recent changes and further letters and templates that will be there to assist you whilst we promulgate a much more higher level action in Victoria. We are about, with the assistance of and the legal advice of Matuk Group lawyers, very much imminently about to file the class action in New South Wales. And on its heels, we'll be looking at a very similar action here in Victoria. But what has occurred is that the Victorian government and the Chief Health Officer have obviously found the rush towards forcing this mandate in Victoria, knowing that on the 15th of December there's going to be discussions around extending the laws, okay, and they can't just click their fingers and do that, and that on the 21st of October there will need to be a renewal or an extension and an assessment under Section 198 of the Public Health Act. You don't just provide timelines that go beyond a revocation date, as they've done with this public health order. We've put, in addition to our declination letter, we've now put a template, a very simple template together to a lot of the employees to assist them in understanding how to negotiate with their employers during this period of time. The employers would be up shit's creek if they sit there and terminate you right away. Okay, that is not what the directions are telling them to do to terminate your employment. And secondly, that there needs to be an exploration around your ability to make certain choices. As a result of our investigation and our research and speaking to a lot of employees about their different perspectives, we feel that this template is going to assist you in formulating the kind of arguments that you would need to negotiate with your employer, either a continuation of working from home until and when you could actually either consider your options for a medical exemption. They have not given any time frames or reasonable time frames for that. And thirdly, there are also other options that may be available to the employer, knowing that the public health orders are temporary laws. They are not permanent laws. And they also have a revocation date or an expiry date. So they shouldn't be just be forcing you into a situation of termination. Now, there is also the very important point that a lot of people don't necessarily have a problem with vaccinations outright, but they most certainly have a problem with the type of vaccinations that are involved. And what I mean by that is this. The mRNA technologies and vector-based technologies used by Moderna, Pfizer and AstraZeneca are the only ones that are currently available as a choice. What is taking some time by the TGA is the approval of another form of technology, which is synthetic protein peptide technology. And through People for Safe Vaccines, we've done a lot of research on this technology, and we say that whilst we don't agree with any rushed vaccines, we most certainly believe that synthetic peptide technology and protein-specific technology is a far more safer technology than mRNA and vector-based technologies. And we know that the Novavax vaccine and Novavax vaccine is currently being reviewed by TGA, and employees should have the right to wait to consider their options as to whether or not they'd like to take the Novavax vaccine. So that's also a very big point, okay, that you could make to your employer with regards to the fact that they need to either put you on leave at half pay, leave without pay, stand you down but without termination, or allow you to work from home, okay, and to continue those arrangements which are not offensive to the public health orders as they stand. I've got a lot of birds that are agreeing with me behind me. So this is a very important consideration. And lastly, and very importantly, is that the employers need to understand that they're not being covered by any indemnity by the government, or workers' compensation in Victoria will not cover you unless you yourself have recommended or booked out or subsidised this vaccine directly to your employees, which is not happening in most cases. So the employer needs to understand that they will be directly liable for any injury. So it is in their best interests to negotiate with their employees. Okay, so this template provides those options so that you're not rushed to do anything. I know a lot of people out there's a lot of different methodologies at the moment as to how people are wanting to approach it. Some people are saying, some representatives are saying, ask the employer for a risk assessment. And I repeat this very clearly, and it's shameful that WorkSafe says that COVID-19 vaccines are a control measure when they provide no sections or references in the regulations. It's an outrage. What an absolute stupid organisation. Okay, control measures under work health and safety legislation, occupational health and safety legislation do not include medical interventions. Employers do not have the skill sets or the authority to do any assessments or to utilise medical interventions as control measures. Get that in your thick heads, okay? There is nothing in the law about that. The maximum or the upper limit of control measures under the law is PPE, okay? And there's a myriad of other measures that we've got in our risk business register to echo that. We've also updated the employer letter to reflect the discriminatory elements that certain groups are carved out, particularly judges. And we say this provides further grounds, okay, for employees to argue with regards to the discriminatory elements that are playing out here. So this just adds for you a supplementary letter that you can use to negotiate with your employer pending our class actions being launched. They are trying to rush this. They know that we have got the right arguments. They're using coercion. They're using force. I posted recently in Telegram a very powerful documentary on the history of psychiatry in the world. These vaccines are being utilised, particularly with these criminal organisations, the likes of Pfizer, who has some of its major drugs as psychotropic psychiatric drugs. Okay, this ain't a nice organisation, nor is AstraZeneca, and by comparison, Novavax is a whole lot better in its history, and you deserve to make choices that also marry up with your ethical values as well. Okay, so all of this information is now available online for you. There are great resources. There's other people saying, oh, you sign off a medical exemption if you're mentally ill or distraught as a result of the vaccines. I mean, look, you're not going to get a GP to do that. It's raising unreasonable expectations. What we would say is, I'd say you'd negotiate with your employer. You say that procedural fairness and natural justice has been denied to you, that you deserve the right to be placed on leave at half pay or leave with pay or unpaid if you can afford that, and also that you should be afforded the right to make the choice that you want appropriately upon consideration of the risk benefit analysis associated with the types of vaccines. And if Novavax, a protein vaccine, is going to be available soon, then you should have that right to exercise in terms of what kind of vaccine you also want to choose. We've got that information in our letter. We've got some of the studies by virologists that came out last year about the benefits and detriments associated with the mRNA technology versus the protein technology. So again, we are very concerned about these vaccines all round in terms of the COVID-19 situation, but we also recognise and wanted to provide you all of your options, irrelevant of what we personally think. We just want to be able to provide you all the arguments for you to utilise accordingly. And you can use that in combination with our declaration letter, and also in terms of the further letters that we're providing via the employee letters and the employer letter. Okay, thank you so much.